Hi there, I'm Ahsan Shaw, and you're watching me on YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we are going to discuss currency and credibility. And along with currency and credibility, we are going to discuss many other relevant topics, stocks, bonds, and how big corporations manipulate and deceive ordinary people. And to discuss this topic, my guest is none other than Edward Konowicz. He has joined us from Virginia, United States.
Yeah, hi everybody. This
Hi,
is
Ed.
a comp.
Hi,
Hey,
Ed.
how are you doing? Good. Hi,
How,
Ahsan.
how, yes, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. It's getting colder here. We have the approach of winter,
Uh,
and I
the
like
weather is
warm weather.
the weather is also getting cold here. It's the autumn has started. I love autumn.
Yeah, it's pretty when the leaves here turn different colors,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more subdued. We don't have the stress of the heat, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't have the comfort of the heat either.
hmm I love autumn. I love the colors of autumn. Especially the brown and the light brown color of the grass, and it gives a very unique combination to the pictures. So, what do you think about the topic, currency and credibility? I think
Well,
I think
I
it's a,
I I think business, particularly
hmm
accounting,
hmm
is some of the best ways to approach analyzing life
hmm
because usually we have a lot of opinions,
hmm
but with money or currency we can measure. That doesn't
hmm
mean because we measure we have truth, but it means that we have a reference that we can talk about. And so
hmm
credibility, and it has a lot to do with the origin of the words.
hmm
Credibility is based on Latin, which means to believe.
hmm
So you have the creed, which is the belief of a person. In
hmm
Christianity, there's the Apostles' Creed, which is a statement of dogma or belief. So
hmm
when we talk about credibility, we're talking about legitimately economics.
hmm
So the church, which in the West was the Roman Catholic Church, became super wealthy because
hmm
people believed in it. And that has to do with credibility, and it has to do with currency, which is fluency. I mean, all these words come together. A river
hmm
flows, and credibility flows to certain people, and that's why
hmm
politics becomes really important. Even
hmm
politics in a family,
hmm
who is believed, and so belief
hmm
is frequently the basis of economics.
hmm
And because of that, you can trick people. You can actually steal money from people because of what they
Of the
believe.
belief. And also, I think there's one more word associated with it is trust.
Could you repeat that word?
Trust. Trust.
Trust. Yes, trust.
Yes. hmm
And
The only the only
trust is
reason the reason you
trust
are
is
going to
important.
believe. Yes. Yes.
And I mean, we could spend literally hundreds of hours on it. And I want to kind of get to some main points about credibility. And
hmm
that's why politicians are important because
hmm
people buy influence, which
hmm
is they actually buy credibility. And
hmm
politics is about establishing credibility or what you're
hmm
going to believe in. So we
hmm
have two forms of creed. We have
hmm
church or religion and
hmm
state. And
hmm
both are about largely economics.
hmm
And now whether we look at
Absolutely.
Rome or Saudi Arabia, we see there's a lot of money in belief.
Mhm. Absolutely. And the reason people believe in the system is because of the trust. And the trust is also based on the credibility.
Yes.
Mm,
So credibility is basically confidence, that you have
mhm,
confidence in a measure
yes.
of currency, that
Mhm,
you're confident that, for example, you're confident you're listening to us, that we're going to
mm,
measure
mhm,
reality or explain it in a factual way. And what I want
mhm,
to get to, because it's an
mhm,
illusion, I
mhm,
want to get to what is considered the center of financing, which is
mhm,
Wall Street, which is stocks.
mhm,
And a lot of people don't understand this.
mhm,
And to make a profit, and the word profit in the West, the phonetics means both a religious leader
mhm,
and also making money,
mhm,
which is we're tying together, again, belief, credibility or credit,
mhm, mhm,
and currency.
mhm,
So, um, people, in order to increase their profit,
mhm,
need more capital. What
mhm,
capital is if I'm a farmer, I
mhm,
may need to increase my land. I may need to buy a tractor.
mhm,
I may need to buy a harvester. And
mhm.
so I may not be able to afford it. So I need a loan.
Mhm.
And that
From the
loan will allow me to increase my productivity. And then the
mhm.
profit from the productivity will allow me to
Would
pay off the loan.
yes,
And that's a basic.
that's how the system works.
So the basic is, how do I increase?
Mhm,
And so financial interest
mhm,
is about rapid increase. We
mhm,
could, I'm a small farmer and I'm planting with tools, hoes, with cows or um, cattle to pull my plow or horses.
tractor, tractor,
I
and
want to go
other.
to a tractor, but to go
Mhm,
to a tractor, I may have to have a loan. And
mhm,
what going to the tractor means is a big increase.
mhm,
And to do an increase in expansion,
mhm,
we need a financial system. So financial
mhm,
systems are based on speeding up the process, both the
mhm,
rise and fall of economic interest. And
mhm,
basically, what currency is supposed to do is facilitate exchange, which is to make exchange of goods easier.
mhm,
And I don't want to go into contract law today. We can
mhm,
go into contract law, which is exchange is not based upon justice.
mhm,
Exchange is based upon consideration that
mhm,
both people enter into the contract in order to benefit each other, that they're
mhm,
in good faith. It's called good
mhm.
faith. You enter into an
Just like
exchange.
partnership.
Yes, it's an exchange based on good intentions, which is called
Mhm,
good faith, good intent,
mhm,
or and which is based upon goodwill.
mhm.
Goodwill is
And I,
actually an accounting term meaning
mhm,
reputation.
mhm.
And
Also
I just
trust.
want to mention this: reputation is your honor, and
Mhm.
this goes back to
Reputation.
the ancient Egyptians who
Mhm,
did not use money. They didn't
mhm,
have currency,
mhm,
and they lasted at least 4,000, maybe 12,000 years as a civilization. They did
mhm,
not have currency. What they
mhm,
had was honor. And this was
mhm,
part of their religion. It was called the Ark of the Contract.
mhm,
But let's get to modern stuff, particularly corporations.
mhm,
And with technology, there needs to be rapid expansion. For example, the Rockefellers made a lot of money or profit with the rapid expansion of oil and gas.
mhm,
Before the oil and gas expansion, people used coal, and coal is
mhm,
very toxic. So
mhm,
a lot of people had black lung, which is a
mhm.
disease from breathing coal dust.
Just
Not
like
only,
just like tech companies of today, smartphone companies, they are making a lot of profit.
Yeah, like Microsoft. I'm going to be discussing Microsoft. And
Microsoft, iPhone, Samsung, and other tech companies.
right, Facebook, Google,
Yes, indeed.
rapid
YouTube.
expansion of exchange, and a lot of
Mhm,
exchange is communication.
mhm,
We have a shipyard in Virginia called Newport News. It was named
mhm,
after Christopher Newport.
mhm,
So where did the news come from? The most important transport of the ships was the news.
mhm,
In fact, we had a big war here, the War of 1812 with Britain,
mhm,
and because we were trying to kick out the monarchy and the influence of England,
mhm,
and the Battle of New Orleans by who became president, General Andrew Jackson,
mhm,
defeated the British. Something like 1,500 soldiers were killed, the British mercenaries,
mhm,
and only a dozen of Americans died. But that
mhm,
battle happened after the war had ended.
mhm,
Since the news was coming by ship, people did not
mhm,
know the war was ended.
mhm.
So the
Because of
news
the
affects,
slow system
yeah,
of communication at that time.
was too slow. So
Yes.
what financial markets are about is increasing the speed of development.
Mhm, mhm,
So you're basically investing in development. And to do
mhm,
that, you need loans, like the farmer may need a loan for a tractor or for a
mhm,
combine or a harvester or
mhm,
for some type of cotton picking machine.
mhm,
They may need a loan. And then, what's interesting, now I find this very interesting, is in some Islamic belief structures, it's illegal
mhm,
or immoral to charge
mhm,
interest.
mhm.
And of
Yes, it
course,
is it's illegal in the Muslim country. It is mostly widely considered illegal of charging interest in the Muslim country, but people do it with a sense of guilt. Some people do it, the financial institution do it, but when it comes to discussion, you cannot debate the argument that it's legal. It's always considered illegal.
and I think that's an interesting development, which is we
Mhm,
should apply ethics or morality to
mhm,
economics. We should
mhm,
look at the financial exchange and ask
mhm,
what is moral or what is
mhm,
good. We shouldn't allow
mhm,
something that's wrong.
mhm,
And one of the concepts that developed in the West, which
mhm,
is United States, was taxes.
mhm,
Now, now taxes have been around a long time, which is
mhm,
some empire wants some of the profit, some of the production to go to
mhm,
the rulers of the empire. That's been around a
mhm,
long time. But what
mhm,
developed in the U.S., there was a lot of slavery and migrant farm
yes,
workers from Mexico and South
mhm,
America, and people would employ them. And when they were done picking the crop or done working in the factory, they wouldn't pay
mhm.
them. And since
Yes,
the
because
person was here illegally, which was they
mhm,
didn't migrate and become an American citizen, they couldn't
mhm,
take their employer to court.
mhm.
So
Because
taxes were,
they were considered a part of property.
yes, and they were
Mm,
abused. They were abused.
yes.
So taxes were that a employer had to record their employees, keep records. And
Mhm,
if the employer did not keep records,
mhm,
then they were illegal and could be
mhm,
prosecuted.
mhm,
So this laws of keeping records stopped a lot
mhm,
of abuses.
mhm,
So what became moral in the West, or what became
mhm,
good, is as long as you kept an accurate record, which is you
mhm,
would have an auditor or an accountant. If you remember what I said earlier, is
Mhm.
accounting is very important, which is a record.
Yes, indeed. Mhm.
And you can look at the Old Testament, particularly Numbers, which is the Old Testament of the Jewish um, Pentateuch or Torah, and there's a
Mhm.
whole book based on numbers in which the numbers of people, numbers of cattle, everything is counted. And what was interesting, I think it was in the Babylonian records, even every chicken was counted.
Mhm.
So there was a feeling if you kept a record, you could do what you want as long as you had a record.
Mhm.
And this was
And
slavery.
that,
Slavery in the United States, they had records. In
mhm.
fact, it's easier frequently for an African American to look up their history because the
Mhm.
records of slaves were kept than for
Mhm.
a European because there was no records of their ancestors.
Mhm.
So to do wrong, people keep
Mhm.
records.
Yes.
It's kind of an interesting
Mhm.
effect, you know. If you write it down as a record, it means you're
Mhm.
willing to publish,
Mhm.
you're willing to be open or honest about it.
Mhm.
So honesty allows a lot of evil.
Mhm.
So if you keep a record on something, you can do
Mhm.
something wrong because you have a record on it.
Mhm.
Now, let me go over about loans and stocks. So stocks are
Mhm.
record keeping.
Mhm.
So if a company is particularly a tech company wants to expand very quickly
Mhm.
to service billions of people, they
Mhm.
need loans.
Mhm.
They go to a bank, they
Mhm.
not only have to pay back the loan, they may
Mhm.
have to pay back interest.
Mhm. Indeed.
So so what they do is they issue stocks rather than
Going to the financial institution.
but right, rather than that they borrow money from the public and it's called an
Mhm.
IPO,
Mhm.
initial public offering. They
Mhm.
basically raise money from the public and then they claim the public owns the company because the stockholders can vote depending
Mhm.
on the number of shares.
Mhm.
But the truth of it is, they don't have to pay back the loan.
Yes. And
So what stocks are is free money
mhm. They are
because
getting the
basically,
money.
let's say I have $10,000
Mhm.
and I buy $10,000 worth of Microsoft's stock.
Mhm.
Well, Microsoft doesn't have to give me the money back.
Mhm.
If I want to
Yeah.
sell my stock, I don't sell it
Mhm.
to Microsoft. I have to
Mhm.
find someone else that's willing to buy my pieces of paper.
Mhm.
And the value of the stock rests largely on the reputation, which is
Reputation of the
confidence.
company. Yes.
And so confidence is the basis of the stock market. And that's
Mhm.
why you'll see on TV the opening bell. They have
Mhm.
celebrities and other people. They're all cheering
Mhm.
because they're trying to build confidence in the
Mhm.
stock market. And I'm
Mhm.
going to look at some of the immoral or wrongful ways stocks are handled.
Mhm.
So, a company like Microsoft, let's
Mhm.
say 1 out of 7 people have a computer or Microsoft's operating system and maybe Microsoft's Office.
Mhm.
And it's probably higher than 1 out of 7 today. I mean, almost everyone I know has a
Mhm.
computer with Microsoft's operating system.
Mhm. I have a system. I have a computer, and I have the operating system I have is Microsoft. And I think you do the same.
So if you charged just one
Mhm.
dollar, if
Mhm.
Microsoft charged just $1 for their operating system,
Mhm.
Their gross revenues would be $1 billion if a billion people have it. But
And they have a
they
billion.
don't just charge $1. Now
Yeah,
let
they
me
charge more.
explain.
Mhm.
A computer programmer probably makes about in the United States about 200, a good one, about
Mhm.
200,000 a year.
Mhm.
And let's say
Mhm.
Office and Windows um,
Mhm.
operating system employs
Mhm.
200 programmers,
Mhm.
or let's say even 100 programmers.
Mhm.
100 times 200,000 is
Mhm.
$10 million.
Mhm.
So
And
$10 million is only 1 cent
out of the $1 billion.
of $1 billion.
Mhm.
So Microsoft can pay off its programmers for pennies,
Mhm.
but they're charging you for Office 10, 20, 50, $100.
Mhm.
But the people who wrote the program only cost them pennies because they're selling it to a billion people.
Mhm.
So as a result of this,
Mhm.
Microsoft makes about 90% profit.
Mhm.
I mean, they have distributors, they have teaching seminars, they have
Mhm.
promotionals. Most of their money is in advertisement and promotionals, but
Mhm.
they have about a profit margin somewhere
Of
around
90.
90%. Could be
Mhm.
higher,
They
could be
also
lower, but that's a
some.
lot of profit, 90%.
I
So,
think it's excluding taxes.
yeah,
You have to
including
exclude
taxes,
all. Mhm.
right, including taxes. So it
Mhm.
may go down to 80%, but
Mhm.
it's a high level of profit. So
Yes.
Microsoft has a lot of credibility among
Mhm.
banks.
Mhm.
Now you can have another firm like Apple,
Mhm.
and Apple doesn't sell as many computers. They
Mhm.
can't have a high of a level of profit. In
Mhm.
fact, my Apple would have went bankrupt if Microsoft did not invest in it. Microsoft kept Apple alive
Mhm.
financially.
Mhm.
Now, so we got this idea of stocks. So you
Mhm.
buy a stock in Microsoft. Now, Microsoft had 90, 80% profit, whatever the
Mhm.
taxes were, or I don't know specifically, but generally it's said around 90% profit.
Mhm.
Did they pay that to their stock owners? Their stock owners supposedly own Microsoft. Did they
But
get 90% profit? No. They got
no.
about dividends of about 1 or 2%.
Oh my.
Now think about that. So
Mhm.
the stockholders are told they own the company,
On the company, in
which
reality,
is
they don't.
Microsoft is
Don't.
making
Mhm.
90% profit, and they're not getting the profit. They're only getting 1 or 2%.
Mhm.
So that money's going into cash or
Mhm.
more purchases,
Mhm.
or um, the big stockholders like Bill Gates. The
Mhm.
money is going by him selling his stock, and then he's got billions of dollars for his foundation, which is
Mhm.
influence.
Mhm.
Currency is influence, is
Mhm.
being fluent.
Mhm.
So what Wall Street does
Mhm.
is Wall Street has mechanism for stealing, which is gambling. See,
Mhm.
the problem with Las Vegas, which is in the United States and some states, gambling is legal. So you can
Mhm.
go to a casino and you can play uh, 21, spin the wheel,
Mhm.
uh,
Different kinds of
play
gambling games.
different types of gambling. And
Mhm.
what used to be done about 50 years ago, gangsters, which
Mhm.
is organized crime, organized casinos, and they would skim. they would skim
Mhm.
a certain amount of cash that they
Mhm.
did not record. So there would
Mhm.
be millions of dollars spent in their casinos, and they would
Mhm.
skim suitcases of cash and bring them back to Chicago or New York City. And there was no record. This is where Al Capone, the big gangster of Chicago, was
Mhm.
prosecuted because he didn't pay his taxes. He didn't have a record. So what Wall Street had to do was keep records so they wouldn't be prosecuted, and then have
Mhm.
schemes for skimming.
Mhm.
Skimming is you're taking money or currency off of an exchange and removing
Mhm.
it from the exchange for your own personal use. And
Mhm.
skimming is a major thing that goes on in the stock market, but it is being done with records. There's a fancy way of doing this. And
Mhm.
people are not informed. There's so much complex language.
Mhm.
They're not fluent with the
They are
language.
not
Like the
they are
difference
not
between,
familiar with the terms.
yeah, they don't know the difference between stocks and bonds. See,
Mhm.
a bond is a loan. That's why it's called a
Yes.
bond. So if you
Yes.
buy bonds in a company and that company bankrupts, they have an obligation of the
To pay
remaining
it back.
assets to pay off the bonds. They don't really have much obligation towards the stocks.
Mhm.
So stocks are a riskier investment. And
Mhm.
the Dow Jones Industrial Average does not reflect the actual performance of companies because as
Mhm.
soon as a company is not performing well,
Mhm.
they are removed from the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So it's an inaccurate view of the stock market doing well because as soon as the company doesn't do well, they're removed from
Mhm.
the averages. So it's building a false confidence. And this is part of the
Mhm.
cheating. The part of the cheating is to build credibility. And this
Mhm.
happened with MF Global. MF
Mhm.
Global, and I'm going to go into that a little bit better, was
Mhm.
cheered or led by a United States governor and ex US Senator, Governor
Mhm.
Corzine, John Corzine,
Mhm.
um, was in control of this financial corporation that lost about $1.5 billion for its investors. Now, the way it
Mhm.
did it, it had records, and though they were prosecuted and went out of business,
Mhm.
Corzine was fined $5 million for using investors' money to
Mhm.
invest. And I'm going to talk about marginal trading. I want to cover
Mhm.
stocks, bonds, marginal trading, and how this
Mhm.
results in credibility and may have resulted in the wars in the Middle East.
Mhm.
The wars in the Middle East may be a result of financial markets.
Yes, war is also based on the finances and financial markets.
I don't. It's true. It is
Mhm.
based on profiteering, but it's based
Yes.
upon destroying the records
Mhm.
because the
Yes.
records have the criminal trace or the evidence of what was mishandled.
Mhm.
So destroying records is part of war.
Mhm.
So let's go back to Microsoft, the
Mhm.
Microsoft stocks.
Mhm.
You buy stocks, you have to, Microsoft's not going to necessarily pay you back. You want to sell
Mhm.
your stocks, which is a loan to Microsoft. You
Mhm.
have to find someone else to buy it. That's like going to a gambling casino,
Mhm.
getting $1,000 worth of chips,
Mhm.
gambling, and you may only have 900 or you may have 1,500, and you go back
Mhm.
to the cashier where you bought the chips,
Mhm.
and they tell you, we can't buy your chips back. You have to find another gambler.
Mhm.
The money you gave us is ours. We're not giving it back to you. That's called an
Mhm.
Indian giver.
mhm,
Indian reservations are famous in the
mhm,
United States for
mhm,
gambling casinos.
mhm.
So stocks are the Indian givers. You
Yeah,
basically buy your chips, you gamble with them,
mhm,
and then you go back to the cashier, which could be Microsoft, and
mhm,
Microsoft says, "No, I'm not giving you money for your chips. You got to find another gambler, another
mhm,
stockholder to buy it
mhm,
from you, and you're going to have to pay a commission to a broker who's going to help you find that other gambler to buy that piece of paper." So
mhm.
Microsoft may make not 90%,
I mean,
99% profit from the stocks. Most
how much?
corporations make more money from their stocks than selling
Mhm,
their product. Let me repeat that.
mhm,
Many corporations make more
mhm,
money from their stocks because they
mhm.
don't have to pay them back
No,
than
they don't have to
profit
pay.
from what they don't have to pay it back. You have to find another gambler to buy the
Mhm,
stocks, and you have to pay a percentage to the broker who will
mhm,
find another gambler to buy what you loaned Microsoft
mhm.
because Microsoft says, "I'm not paying you back. Go
Yes.
find a
So,
broker. Go find a broker that will find you another gambler to buy the stock from you." Now,
so it,
companies do buy back stocks, but that's
so it
usually
means
because
it means if you are buying the stock of companies like uh, Microsoft, it means you are going to lose your money,
no,
your
it doesn't mean you're
investment.
going to lose your money. It
Hmm.
means someone is. It's like a Ponzi scheme.
Yes,
It's a
the
confidence. See, what we call in American English, we
mhm,
call a thief someone who
mhm,
steals your money a con man. And
mhm,
con man is short for confidence. They gain
mhm,
your confidence or credibility, like Bernie
mhm,
Madoff, and you
mhm,
invest in his corporation or firm, and he never pays it back. There's no money left because
mhm,
he's used it to pay interest
mhm,
or dividends. But let me get
mhm,
back. I don't want to get too lost. We could do this, but basically, John Corzine had
mhm,
credibility because he was the governor of New
mhm,
Jersey, a state in the United States, and a U.S. senator. He had credibility, so people gave him money. And
mhm,
then the MF Global illegally used that money to buy stocks for themselves. And I'm going to explain that. That's
mhm,
that's basically gambling is you have two boxers that are going to fight each other or two football teams, and you're going to bet on who's going to
mhm,
win.
mhm,
But there's no exchange.
mhm,
You're not selling cotton. You're
mhm,
not selling Microsoft Office. There's no exchange involved. You're just
mhm,
betting on the outcome.
mhm,
Nothing's made because this boxer knocks out this other boxer. In fact,
mhm,
something was destroyed. That other
mhm,
boxer was hurt, damaged,
mhm,
maybe for life, and
mhm.
you're betting money on who's going to be less damaged.
Mhm,
So there's really no exchange. And this goes on in the stock market, but it
mhm,
has to be disguised. It used to be called, I think, buckets or bucketeering or something like that, which is you
mhm,
would bet on which stock would win, which stock
mhm,
would rise, which one would fall, just like if you were betting on a soccer or football match, which soccer or football team would win.
mhm,
It was made illegal, but there's a way around it. It's called marginal trading or
mhm,
derivative.
mhm,
And it's based on agriculture, basically. It's called the futures market or the grain exchange, which
mhm,
is a farmer, his tractor breaks down, he needs a new tractor. So what he does is he goes to the futures or the grain exchange, and before he has, let's say, his cotton output, the cotton's not grown, he sells a
Mhm.
contract, a future contract, that he will deliver a certain amount of cotton at a price.
Mhm.
Let's say, I don't know what the price of cotton is. Let's say it's $20 a bale.
Mhm.
So he's selling his cotton at $20 a bale. And suppose there is a flood and his cotton
Is ruined.
is ruined. Well, he
Yes.
now has to go and buy cotton from someone else for $40 a bale and
Mhm.
sell that back to the person who has the futures. So he's
Mhm.
lost a lot of money.
Mhm.
He's lost more than his crop
Mhm.
because now he owes $40 a bale instead of getting zero because he lost his crop. He owes $40 a bale.
Mhm.
So that's called marginal trading to some extent, or selling short, that you can basically get a loan. The farmer got a
Mhm.
loan from futures trading or the grain exchange. And so a lot of the initial marginal trading where you could actually owe more money. See, the idea of the stock market, people had some extra money. They could invest, put it in the bank, maybe get 1 or 2%, or they could put it in the stock market and hope to make 5%, not on the dividends.
Mhm.
They would hope the stock would increase in price
Mhm.
5 or 10%, and then sell their stock and make more money by buying stock than
Mhm.
putting it in the bank.
Mhm.
But stocks have become based on credibility and what's called um, price per earnings or cost per
Mhm.
earnings. I'm going to cover that. But basically, you're given a too favorable position by the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's a misperception that most stocks don't do that well. They take the best performing stocks, take the average
Mhm.
to convince you that you
Mhm.
will buy stocks. They don't pay dividends. Now, if we go back 60 years ago, stocks paid dividends. So
Mhm.
instead of getting 5% interest in the bank, you could get 10% dividends in the stock.
Dividend.
And if you
Mhm.
held the stock for 10 years, your money would be returned in dividends. So even if the company failed, you already
Mhm.
got dividends or interest. Well, the stock market felt that was too fair.
Mhm.
That was too honest. So then they
Mhm.
had price per earnings, which is they
Mhm.
valued the stock. How much did the company earn and
Mhm.
what was that earnings per stock? But the truth of
Mhm.
it was, if you owned that stock, you did not get the earnings.
Mhm.
So the price for earnings ratio, which was you took the total earnings of the corporation and divided it by the number of stock, those earnings
Mhm.
were not paid as dividends. They were usually paid as bonuses to the executives.
Mhm.
So now CEOs can make $100 million a year and their vice
Mhm.
presidents $10 million a year with bonuses and stock options.
Mhm.
So the
But
value
on
of
the
a
other hand,
stock is
but the
about,
people, but the people who invest the money in the stock, in your company, they don't get anything.
no, they don't get much dividends. They have to find
Mhm.
someone to buy the stock at a higher price, which
Mhm.
happens at times. A certain percentage, less than
Mhm.
average,
Mhm.
can sell their stock to someone else, pay the
Mhm.
brokerage fee, which isn't
Mhm.
much. Brokerage fees are small,
Mhm.
and earn a profit because they sold their stock for more money than they paid. But that's not the average. Stocks don't go up on the average because their loans and a lot of companies fail. and the last
mhm,
people they pay are the stockholders. If you
mhm,
have bonds in most courts and legal proceedings, the bonds take precedence over the stocks. So this stuff
mhm,
is not explained.
mhm.
And
So
and
people
I'm an
are told.
amateur. I'm an
Mhm,
amateur. The difference between me and an expert knows
mhm,
more, but they're not going to
mhm.
tell you the truth. An expert knows
Absolutely,
much
because
more than me. So I don't know
yes,
that
and
much, but I'm
mhm,
an honest person, and that's the
mhm.
big difference. The
So
average person,
I would like
the
to
av-
say here that the average person is told that if you own the stock, if you buy the stock, then you are going to be the owner of the company. But in reality, he is not the owner. He would only get 1 or 2% of the profit on his investment, the money he has invested.
right? He's
Mhm,
not the owner, and he doesn't own enough stock because he didn't get
mhm,
stock options
mhm,
to really vote in the stockholders meeting and change the course of the company. Who
mhm,
would, in their right mind, let's see all the people that own Microsoft
mhm,
stock. Let's say
mhm,
Microsoft made in 1 year $50 billion, and if you
mhm,
divided that up among the stockholders, they would
mhm,
each get $1,000. What
mhm,
stockholder would say, no, don't give me the $1,000, let Microsoft keep it?
mhm,
They wouldn't.
mhm,
The stockholders would say, yes, distribute your profit, your earnings
mhm, mhm,
among the stockholders. But the
mhm,
major stockholders may be Bill Gates and his friends, and they're going to say,
mhm,
no, we're not distributing the profit
mhm,
to the stock owners.
mhm.
We're going to give bonuses to the executive
To
officers.
the people who are
Right. So
con
the
manning the
earnings
people.
the earnings of a company
Mhm,
are not distributed to the stockholders.
mhm,
Generally, that's true. The earnings of a company, the earnings per
mhm,
share, the stockholder does not get the earnings per share.
mhm. They get a percentage on the amount they
Sometimes some
invested.
stocks don't pay even dividends.
Mhm, mhm,
They now the ones that do pay, this is
mhm,
sort of like blood money, are
mhm,
like the pharmaceutical companies, the defense contractors, the
mhm,
companies that are making a killing, that are killing.
mhm, mhm,
They will pay dividends and also value their stock. That's
mhm,
what people are investing in, killing people.
mhm.
So when there's wars going on, what happens to the stock market? It goes
It
up.
crashes.
No, it goes
It
up
does. How does it go up?
because the Dow Jones industry is based on defense contractors,
Mhm,
energy contractors, oil,
mhm,
pharmaceuticals, medicine,
mhm.
health insurance companies, and
Okay.
and when war goes on,
Mhm,
those are what are paid. The government is paying for more planes, they're paying for
mhm,
more tanks, for more
mhm.
bullets, for more bombs. So those
So,
companies are earning more money during a war. That's called war profiteering.
mhm,
Now remember, the big crash in the West
mhm,
happened after World War One. It happened
mhm.
1929. 1919,
It was
World
the
War One was over. 10 years
mhm,
later, there was the stock market crash. And then
mhm,
once World War Two started, there was no more crash.
mhm. So
So, so
the stock market is going to go up if there is a war.
yeah,
When
generally
people,
war means profit for
mhm,
profiteering. And I
mhm,
would say this is not economics. I would say
mhm,
spiritually
mhm,
that people are paid
mhm,
because evil controls the world for killing each other.
mhm.
Business,
Mm-hmm.
the real high profit of business is killing human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll
So,
see the wealthiest countries like Saudi Arabia or
mm-hmm.
United States or England, you'll see them
Mm-hmm.
killing people
Yes, we do see it.
because I think evil controls the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you make a
Yes,
lot of money if you're willing to kill people.
yes,
But you have to have records. You have to
yes.
write it down. This is the trick with taxes. You if
Mm-hmm.
you if you write it down, you can kill people. I spent this much money on nuclear weaponry. I spent this much money on cruise missiles. I spent
Mm-hmm.
this much money on tanks. I spent
Mm-hmm.
this much money on drones. I spent
Mm-hmm.
this much money on bombs, and you can
Mm-hmm.
make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's my spiritual point of view. I want to get back to economics.
Mm-hmm.
So, your price to earnings ratio
Mm-hmm.
is your stocks, the amount of money that you have in capital stocks for a
Mm-hmm.
corporation, supposed to be a 13 to 15 to 1 ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Microsoft makes $1 billion a year,
Mm-hmm.
in order to have confidence in their stock, they can issue $13 billion worth of stock.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say Microsoft makes, they make more than that, but let's say
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft makes $1 billion, that's their earnings, $1 billion, then
Mm-hmm.
they can issue $13 billion worth of stock.
Mm-hmm.
So now people buy $13 billion worth of stock. There's a certain amount of bookkeeping or records to it. So Microsoft
They
may
have to.
make
Mm-hmm.
almost
They have.
$12 billion in
Mm-hmm.
profit from the stocks. It's not called profit, but
Mm-hmm.
they got from that stocks because it's just paper. They didn't give
Mm-hmm.
anything. They
Mm-hmm.
just issue
They get some.
paper stocks, and they got
Yes.
$12 billion. They got $1 billion from
Mm-hmm.
selling software, but they got
Mm-hmm.
$12 billion from
From the
selling
start,
stock.
without any obligation, without any financial obligation that they have to pay them back. There's
Right.
no nothing. Mm-hmm.
No, there is some obligation, but not complete
Mm-hmm.
obligation,
Mm-hmm.
which is when a company like Enron
Mm-hmm.
goes bankrupt, the stockholders and the employees lose
Mm-hmm.
their pensions. They lose their
Mm-hmm.
stock
Mm-hmm.
because the company supposedly went belly up.
Mm-hmm.
But let me cover Enron a little bit, and I want to cover marginal trading. This is a lot. I mean, we could spend, and we could do 3 or 4 or 5 videos
Sessions on yeah. Yes, on
on how people
currency.
steal in the
Mm-hmm.
financial markets. I want to get to
Mm-hmm.
marginal trading. But first
Mm-hmm.
of all, I want to get to the idea that basically much of the financial markets are
Mm-hmm.
legalized gambling because
Mm-hmm.
they follow rules and they
Mm-hmm.
keep records.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get away with killing people in war if you
Mm-hmm.
keep records.
Yes.
This
If you
which is you have to publish. And this is
yes.
the expression in the university, publish or perish. You can
Mm-hmm.
tell a lie as long as you publish it.
Yes.
And so a lot of economics is not a lie, it's a
Mm-hmm.
misdirection. Why tell a complete lie when you can make money off of a half a lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why tell a complete lie and risk going to jail when you can tell
Mm-hmm.
a partial lie and make a lot of money?
Yes, just like the contract, just like the terms and conditions of when you buy online, you just have to sign it. You don't read the whole contract. There are many things written there. It's a partial lie.
Yeah, and it's based upon confidence or credibility. And
Mm-hmm.
this is where politicians play a major role because
Mhm.
what has confidence or credibility is the government.
Yes.
So politicians sell influence or
Mhm.
access so that laws can be passed to protect investors, which is
Yes.
protect the schemes from of stealing money.
And people go out for voting is based on the credibility and trust they have upon their leaders, upon the people they're voting for.
Yeah, so it's trust. You know
Hmm.
where the word vote,
Yeah.
VOTE, comes
Yeah.
from the Latin, which is to make a promise or to take a vow or an oath.
Hmm. In other
And an
words,
oath means you've given credibility to someone. It
hmm.
means you have given influence.
Hmm.
So a lot of influence is based on fluency, which is to know the
Hmm.
language.
Hmm.
Whether you know English, whether you know the economic language and understand what a futures is, selling
Hmm.
short, marginal
Hmm.
trading.
Hmm.
And then we get real gambling, which is called a swap, an
Hmm.
SWAP.
Yes,
Okay.
swapping.
And
You exchange something uh, with someone.
no, you don't really exchange. I'm going to explain this.
Hmm.
Swapping, most of financial markets are no longer based on exchange.
Hmm.
They're based on exchange rates. Let me repeat
Hmm.
this. A lot of
Exchange rate.
financial markets are not
Hmm.
based on exchange, they're
Hmm.
based on exchange rates. And you
Hmm.
can look this up. In fact, I'm going to just Google this
Okay.
because I want to get the terms right. Look up LIBOR, LIBOR.
Mm.
And LIBOR is the London Interbank Offered Rate. LIBOR,
Mhm.
and I'm reading this from Intralinks, is
Mhm.
the benchmark interest rate at which major global banks lend to one another. So they're basically betting on the change of rates, which is sort
Mhm.
of marginal trading.
Mhm.
LIBOR had a huge scandal in which these exchange rates were exaggerated or
Mhm.
downplayed so people could make money.
Mhm.
LIBOR is responsible for about 300 trillion, not billion,
Mhm.
$300 trillion of
Mhm.
finances through the
Mhm.
banks. And let me explain this so it makes
Mhm.
sense. Because most you can't, an economic major or economist is not going to explain this to people.
Mhm.
Now, I'm an amateur. I don't
Mhm.
know as much as an economist, economic
Mhm.
major or economist. I don't know as much, but I'm honest.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you the truth as far as I know it. I may make a few mistakes,
Mhm.
but a swap
Everybody does.
is
Mhm.
Microsoft has billions of dollars. You know, for every
Mhm.
billion they make
Mhm.
selling software, they can make 12 billion selling stock. Imagine that. Over 10 times the profit is made in selling stocks than in
Mhm.
your profit over selling a product. Let me repeat this. I
Mhm.
can sell a product and make a profit, but I
Mhm.
can use that profit, those earnings,
Mhm.
to sell stock and make 10 times as much for that year.
Mhm.
That's
In
kind
other
of
words,
amazing.
mhm. Yes, it is
So
amazing.
Microsoft, Bill Gates,
Mhm.
who knows finances, he's
Mhm.
almost controlling the world. He's going to tell the
Mhm.
world they have to
Mhm.
use vaccines.
Mhm.
He's got so
And
many
then,
billions of dollars. He
mhm.
understands the financial market so well.
Mhm.
He now is a dictator. He's going to dictate what policy is supposed to be for the world. No matter
Mhm.
how toxic are the
Mhm.
vaccines, no matter
Mhm.
how ineffective, he
Mhm.
intends to dictate to the world that they should
Mhm.
use vaccines.
Mhm.
And he's got billions of dollars, which is credibility,
Mhm.
currency,
Mhm.
to back him up
Mhm.
because people believe in money.
Mhm.
Oh, Mohammed Asif, that's a very good question. What is the
Mhm.
future of paper currency and cryptocurrency? Well,
Mhm.
cryptocurrency allows
Mhm.
terrorists and drug dealers because
Mhm.
the Swiss banks had to keep records and the
Mhm.
Swiss banks had to yield to the FBI and others. And cryptocurrency hides the exchange. It
Yes.
encrypts
There's
the
no there's
users.
no there's no record of cryptocurrency or digital currency
Well, there is a
anywhere.
record. It's encrypted. There is a
Yes,
record, and they're
but it's
called
encrypted.
they're
It's
called
encrypted.
chain. Uh, I mean, the
Blockchain.
terminology gets so
Blo-
bad.
blockchain.
Let me. Yeah, they're
Blockchain.
called. What are they called?
Blockchain.
Yeah. Uh, so these chains and miners can investigate them because the big
Mhm.
problem in cryptocurrency is to make
Mhm.
a copy of the coin.
Mhm.
So miners who can make cryptocurrency coins from
Mhm.
doing this check to make sure there's not copies. But
Mhm.
you don't know who's doing the exchange. It's a
Mhm.
way of doing money laundering. Remember, I
Mhm.
covered the skimming
Yes.
from casinos. Well, you can skim money,
Mhm.
but then you have to
Mhm.
launder it and make it legal.
Yes.
So cryptocurrency can be used in the laundering of money because you don't know who's moving the money.
Yes. There's no record
So
of it.
so
Yes, the record is
cryptocurrency
encrypted.
is a
The
big
record
threat.
is encrypted. Yes.
Yeah, and the making everything digital, which is
Mhm.
digital currency, not necessarily the cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or
Mhm.
Ether something. Ether. There's a
Yes.
there's more digital cryptocurrencies than
There are many.
yeah. There's many.
Spectrum. Yes, there are many.
But the problem with digital currency like credit cards is the government has total surveillance, which is
Mhm.
they know where you are, where you spend your money, and they can stop
Mhm.
it, which
Mhm.
is it just gives government more totalitarian control.
Mhm.
So there's two dangers to crypto and digital currency. One is to hide terrorists and illegal activity
Mhm.
from the public, particularly, because I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure the governments are requiring the keys,
Mhm.
but the governments are criminal.
Mhm.
I mean, if the government has total surveillance, how is any
Mhm.
crime going on?
Mhm. So, speaking, I wanna also reply to his comment, Muhammad Asif's comment. It's a very good one. Uh, I think on Wednesday I'm going to have a live session on cryptocurrency with the founder of the new currency, Spectre Coin, and we are going to discuss with him. I'm going to discuss with him about cryptocurrency. He has launched a new currency, so I'm going to interview him. So yes, and I'm also going to discuss the same thing with him as well. That you have just mentioned that there's no record of it. Drug dealers and other terrorists they use cryptocurrency to their advantage.
In fact, much of the ransomware,
Hmm.
where whole databases are encrypted in hospitals and government and
Hmm.
towns, may be based on payments in cryptocurrency.
Hmm.
So this has allowed a new form of terrorism. The new
Hmm.
form of terrorism is ransomware, where all your
Hmm.
information can be encrypted and you don't
Hmm.
have the keys. And now the
Hmm.
terrorist is um, blackmailing you for the keys. I mean, this is what Epstein may have made billions of dollars was
Hmm.
with blackmail. He got pictures and evidence of people having sex with underage
Hmm.
girls or children
Hmm.
and abusing people, maybe even killing people. So he
Hmm.
traded his currency in blackmail.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Epstein had billions of dollars. He didn't have a
And
product. He wasn't selling a product. What he was selling was influence or the lack of influence. He was
mhm,
blackmailing people with
mhm,
evidence.
mhm,
So now I want to get back to the topic I wanted to cover, which is
mhm,
swapping.
mhm.
So let's
I
say
think.
let's say Microsoft has such a
Mhm,
good rating because it
mhm,
makes such a profit, it could get
mhm,
a loan at 2%.
mhm.
Let's say another corporation,
Okay.
it doesn't make much of a profit and it needs to build a new car, let's say
Mhm,
Citroen needs to build a factory to build hybrid cars. They need
mhm,
electric cars.
mhm,
And because they don't make much of a profit,
mhm,
the banks will give them a loan at 5%,
mhm,
and Microsoft could get the loan at 2%.
mhm,
Well, Microsoft could borrow the money
mhm,
at 2%, loan it to Citron at 4%. Citron is going to get it 1% cheaper. Then
mhm,
Microsoft could save 2% on the loan, which could
mhm.
be billions of dollars.
Yes.
So that's what's going on at the banking exchange. There are different banking rates, and people get different banking rates. So they're no longer selling the product, they're
Mhm,
selling the exchange rate that they got a better exchange rate. So they borrowed from the bank, and now they became a bank and then issued the money to the other company,
mhm,
which is now they made a certain percentage of this. And this is
mhm,
what Enron Trading was. Enron was a corporation in Texas
mhm,
that made money building power plants to supply electricity.
mhm,
And they find they could make a much greater profit if California needed more power plants, more electricity for its Silicon Valley and other productions for Tesla's
mhm,
cars.
mhm,
Rather than build a power plant, they could hook up to the grid of Utah or Arizona
mhm,
or Oregon and sell them
mhm,
electricity from another state that had more electricity. And Enron figured out they could make something like 10 times more profit rather than
mhm,
building power plants selling states. Now, states should have just directly sold their electricity to California, which is Utah should have just sold its electricity to California, and California would have paid the price, and the state would have made some money. But now you have the middleman, Enron, making billions of dollars. And I heard, I don't know whether it's true, they were selling to the corrupt California politicians electricity at 10 times its cost.
mhm.
Um, so, hold on a second. I have to.
Oh,
All
no
right.
problem. It's been
No,
an
okay.
hour.
My wife's
It's
going to get it, the door.
okay.
Anyway, so Enron was trading,
Mhm,
not selling electricity,
mhm,
selling someone else's electricity.
mhm,
So they were making a profit, not
mhm,
directly selling the product.
mhm,
So what the financial markets became is
mhm,
exchange rates.
mhm,
Rather than directly sell a profit, they would be the middleman
mhm,
based on exchange rates. So LIBOR was playing with the exchange rates to make trillions of dollars, not
mhm,
billions,
mhm.
trillions of dollars
True.
by playing with exchange rates, sort of like gambling over who's going to win the soccer or football match. There's no
Mhm,
product,
mhm.
nothing's being
Yeah,
made. They're gambling over exchange rates.
I think
Now,
we should.
listen, I want to make a point. This is really
Okay,
important. So
okay.
Enron had records,
Mhm,
and Schilling and others who supposedly committed suicide, I think they were
mhm,
murdered because they had the second major accounting firm, Anderson, I
Mhm.
think it was Anderson,
Mhm.
in the United States and maybe in the world do
Mhm.
their accounting. Remember, I said you can commit crime if you record it.
Mhm.
So they recorded everything. And
Mhm.
the definition of crime is to do something that's not acceptable.
Mhm.
And what goes on in accounting is there's what's called common practice. And
Mhm.
Schilling and the rest, I think the guy's name was Schilling, could have
Mhm.
argued in court and won the case by saying Enron was doing nothing different than what LIBOR was doing, nothing different than what um, Goldman Sachs was doing, nothing different than what Microsoft was doing.
Mhm.
The Enron could have presented their case that they had an official government approved accountants do their
Mhm.
books and they were doing nothing different than other people. But that would mean the crime committed by Enron of using pension funds, which I want to get into before we finish. The crime
I
committed
think.
by Enron was being done
Mhm.
by many corporations, not
Mhm.
just Enron.
I think we should
And what
discuss
happened,
what.
no, this is important.
Okay.
9/11, in
Mhm.
which the World Trade Center was attacked,
Mhm.
not only did the two World Trade Centers fall, but
Mhm.
Building 7 was brought
Mhm.
down. Building
Mhm.
7 had the records supposedly of prosecuting Enron. So the records were destroyed.
Mhm.
So then the war in the Middle East, where
Mhm.
the US and Britain invaded Afghanistan and
Mhm.
Iraq, was justified from 9/11 when 9/11 destroyed the records of Enron, and it was the loss of credibility of the stock market. And much of the stock market and financial offices were located in the World Trade Center, which is they lost
Mhm.
credibility, they were
Mhm.
destroyed, just like
Mhm.
Epstein was killed.
Mhm.
So a lot of the illegal, immoral activity is going on, and the way the system cleans it up, it kills. It
Mhm.
wages war to cover
Mhm.
up its wrongful economic activity because there's
Mhm.
records. It's got to
Mhm.
destroy the records
Mhm. And
because
also
these
some people and also make profit from the wars.
they profit from the wars, yes.
Mhm.
And that's in these futures trading, which was
Mhm.
right before 9/11 happened, and it was obviously planned.
Mhm.
A lot of people were selling short, which was
Mhm.
betting on the airline stocks would
Mhm.
collapse.
Mhm.
So there was all these calls and puts put in,
Mhm. Mhm.
options, and that was never investigated. The
Mhm.
financial millionaires and billionaires are protected by their
Mhm.
people in government. They won't investigate the people making money off of the murder and killing of people.
Mhm.
So
So,
that line of
mhm.
investigation was canceled.
Mhm.
All these people that were selling short, and to sell short
Mhm.
is like the farmer. They're
Mhm.
they're what selling short is you borrow someone else's stock
Mhm.
and you sell it at the current prices,
Mhm.
hoping to return the borrowed stock at lower prices. You're betting the stock will fall. So what you do is you
You.
borrow someone's stock, you sell
Mhm.
it at the current prices. When the
Mhm.
stock falls in price,
Mhm.
you now can return the stocks you borrowed, but they're
Mhm.
at a lower price, so you made that money, which are
Mhm.
people are now betting, they're gambling on
Mhm.
the bankruptcy and the fall of other companies. And
Mhm.
the stock market frequently hides this. So,
Mhm.
so we're dealing with criminal activity in the stock market. And when that criminal activity leads to war, like it did in 9/11, those
Mhm.
people who were betting or selling short on the airlines were
mhm,
protected. The government would not investigate.
mhm,
And this goes to the Epstein. Epstein with selling sex,
mhm,
kidnapping, or enslaving, or pressuring young girls to have sex with influential people.
mhm,
He was selling influence, negative influence.
mhm,
So we're dealing with extensive criminal activity in high financial centers. And
mhm.
you have to be spiritual. I couldn't talk like this unless I
Mhm.
had great faith. I
Yes,
have to
indeed.
believe in goodness in
Mhm,
order to cite and relay how the crime is being committed. Most
mhm,
people do not have as much faith or
mhm,
belief in goodness that I do.
mhm,
So you're
mhm,
not going to hear most economists
mhm,
discuss these issues that are very
yes.
important.
Mhm. I think this is a very important topic, and I think we should continue the other topics relevant to this one: swapping, margin trading, and uh, stock market and bonds in the next session as well. And I
Yeah,
think we have been.
we could go for hours
Yes, we can
easily.
go for hours, and we should do it because it is very important to discuss these issues, and we will discuss these issues. And I think it's been an hour, more than an hour,
Yeah,
that
over
we are over 10 minutes now, 12 minutes. Okay,
there,
and thank
and
you
we
so
just
much.
scratched the surface. We just scratched the surface.
I think we should do it more. We should discuss this topic a little more. And thank you so much, Ed, for joining us. And
Okay,
that
thank you.
oh, you're
And we're
welcome. You're
doing a good
welcome.
service. We're finally explaining some things that people don't understand. And I
Yes.
could get maybe put a disclaimer here.
Mhm,
I'm not an economic expert. Some of the things I may have been slightly wrong with, but generally what I said was in the right direction. You would
mhm,
need to look things up a little bit more. I used Microsoft because I was most familiar, and
mhm,
most people are familiar with it as a successful company. But
mhm,
I could be wrong in some of the things I said.
mhm,
Don't quote me as if I'm an expert or
mhm,
giving you the ultimate definitions or whatever. But I think I did
You-
give you a glimpse into
mhm,
the mechanisms and into
mhm,
some of the wrongdoing occurring.
mhm. Do not quote Ed, but do research. Research your
Yes.
own. Research it over Google and then discuss it a little more than he is to some extent right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And we'll have a very interesting discussion next time. It will be the continuation of this topic. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.